Yeah, almost got up and took a break for this one. I don't know what's going to happen now. This is tough. This is where we get into the fill in the blanks. I got one of these books that I filled in the blanks on it, but I did it 10 years ago. And I even did another one. I started to do another one actually about 5 years ago. But if I do it now, it's going to be different because now I've got this 5 souls theory, which is influencing my logic. Here we go. This is number 1 of the Tao Te Ching, we could say. Okay, and I think my numbers correspond to what everybody's doing now. I didn't have any reason to consider having to jive with any of them because I wasn't thinking about publishing this publicly originally. So I apologize if I did move anything around, but I don't remember doing it, and I was trying to, once again, I think, be respectful of Lao Tzu. So I would like to think that this is probably, that he would like what I've done. And as I said, another Taoist mentor, master, actually read this book and said he liked it so much he was going to take ideas from it and use them in his book. So I think that, I think I've grasped Lao Tzu. I really do. So here we go. Number 1, let's read my interpretation of number 1. So remember, all these things when I read are going to be my interpretations, so I don't get upset. I really tried to make them mine, and so that way I wouldn't have any copyright infringements too. So here we go. Nature is the undefinable source of all life. Okay, I think we accept that. We attempt to distinguish it as qi. Now you got to kind of jump aboard the Chinese concept of qi, qigong, qi energy, life force, magnetic energy. In other words, if I came up behind you and I held my hand close to your head, you'd go, what's behind my head? You'd be able to feel the energy, the qi energy coming out of my hand. And it would like, hey, I feel something. And, okay, that's qi. Let me finish third line. But this represents nature as much as a leaf represents a tree. Yeah, so just this doesn't represent nature. It's just me. It's just like a leaf on a tree. It doesn't really represent nature. It's just a leaf on a tree. But there's nature in it. It's a little representation. And there's a cosmos. We'll get to that. We do that in my Tai Chi classes. As a trying to look nice here, is that there's a I call it the multiverse concept in reverse, and I invented this. I didn't invent it. I've heard other people talking about it now, so maybe other people, but I probably picked it up from somebody else. But the multiverse concept, I'm sure other people. Okay, anyway, my version of it is that within us, we are like a walking city. We've got all these parasites and bacteria and who knows what traveling around us, and everything's hooked together. And then within them, within any of those organisms, in a bacteria, he's got his own world, his cosmos that he's living in. As far as he's concerned, there is no world outside my body. And if he did meet it, it'd be the death or something. So it doesn't exist. So he's got his own world. Now, then within the bacteria, there may be some like living organism. And as far as he's concerned, the outside world is that bacteria. And then in terms of that little organism, now it's a molecule. Maybe we're getting below sentient beings or anything now, but there's some molecular structure that, within that, who knows what kind of reality there exists, or whether, like, in Antman, they're trying to get down into those other realities. That's kind of cool. I like that. In fact, that's what Antman is. He's going down into those sub-realities. So if you've seen the Antman movie, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's what I've been talking to my students about since the 80s. I've been pushing that concept. It's one of my pages in my book. And how'd I come on button? Okay, anyway, this is a nice jacket. I like this one. My silk robe. I've used this for different, when I'm getting an award sometimes or something. But I got all these Taoist robes and things. They're really kind of cool. So here we go. Okay. Let's read it real fast. Nature is the undefinable source of all life. We attempt to distinguish it as qi, but this represents nature as much as a leaf represents a tree. Okay? So at least realize we are sensing an aspect of nature. But okay, so you got the whole concept there? So now here's where this is going to be tough. This is where I really wanted to rehearse this book. Because like I said, it's a do-it-yourself. First question. Describe nature as you see it. With a capital N. So this is the big picture. How do you describe Mother Nature? So a lot of people are going to say, oh, Mother Nature, and she's the goddess. Some people will go in the goddess direction. And they'll do whatever they, but go ahead and just put whatever you want. Okay, my goal is not to say what's right or wrong. The point is if, and let me apologize for any influence here, from my perspective versus yours. The whole idea of this book is to actually see yourself. In other words, don't try to say, what does he want me to say? What does Buddha Jen think the right answer is? No. What you think is the right answer. You think is the right answer. That goes here. That's it. And it's for you. And you're going to benefit. You don't want to fool yourself. You don't want to trick yourself. If you believe something silly, put it here. If you believe something serious, this is the place to put it. And the neat thing about this is, in 5-10 years, you can come back and do this book again and see how you've changed, or you found that I was right. Hey, I was totally right about this thing. Yeah. So this is a really, really good book to see your progress in life as you go through. Okay. So describe nature as you see it. Now, when I back in the 90s, I was so here's the trick to this book. Okay, so I got to fill in my blanks, make it more interesting for you, because otherwise I'd say, okay, what do you want to put? Next answer, next question. I don't think that's going to be quite as interesting. But when I wrote this, well, no, I didn't. I wrote this book after that. But after that, well, I had been involved in Native American. I just had this inner quest for Native American things my whole life. In fact, even when I was getting married, my mom thought the only way I'd do it or do it in a church, was if she got me a Cherokee or Cherokee. No, he was something else. But anyway, he got me a Native American Christian preacher. But she thought that would, help make it better for me. I thought that was cute. But that was a very nice gesture. That was one of the few things I think, wow, my mom was really thinking about what I like. So it hasn't happened very many times in my whole life. So, but that was one time. And so I was always very involved in Native American things. And maybe for reasons which I didn't find out until about 5 years ago. But let's not get into that. So if I was to answer this from when I was a Native American, describe nature as you see it. Back then I would have said, and I had my kids, so I was very much involved with nature. I wasn't so much a philosopher. I was a naturalosopher, looking for nature, looking for how to raise my kids, how to make them healthy and happy. And so I saw nature in a very, very rudimentary way, but a beautiful way in terms of seeing the balance of the seasons and the kids and the growing and their raising and their abilities. Every few months would change into a different level. So I was seeing the nature of my daughter growing. And I was in Utah, so I had now seasons, which I wasn't used to in California. So I was really involved with the seasonal natures. So I had this dramatic involvement with nature during the during the 90s, much more than even when I was living out of my car, which was dealing with nature a lot, but not quite as dramatic as when you got snow and ice. So very lucky in that way. But so how I would see nature was, like I said, it depends. When I had the kids, I saw nature in terms of how I was shaping nature to sustain my kids. Now, if a person was had a orange plantation, they would probably see nature in terms of how it affected their orange plantation. So their perspective of nature would be on that basis. They would have a much better understanding of the seasonal rainfalls and the heats and temperatures than I would, because their perspective of nature would involve those more than mine did, in a sense. So when you describe nature, you do it in your own terms and see where you're at. Okay, what's your relationship? How do you see it? So how do you think nature is? Do you think of it as a spiritual thing? These are frog buttons, if you're not familiar with them. There's a loop on one side, and then this really interesting knot on the other one. And these are frog buttons. Chinese buttons, you do it like this. You loop the loop over the frog head. That's why they call them frog buttons, because their buttons look like a frog head. And there you are. Now, buttoned up, hopefully it'll last a little longer. Straight down my shirt, sorry. Not my nature. I need to be, anyway, I am who I am. But I'm improving, I am changing, I'm trying to be more, like I said, I took some time to do this. Wait till you see how I outfitted the other room, and I spent like an hour, 2 hours, I don't know, ironing the muslin. I have this like wonderful muslin. Getting back to that Native American thing, I bought it because I was making myself my own Native American clothing. And I was doing beadwork. I was cutting the muslin and stitching them up from patterns you buy, and sewing them up, and by hand stitching and putting beadwork. I got beadwork going down the sleeves and on my pants. I just into this Native American thing. I think I might have found out later why. But like I said, your relationship with nature, mine was different. In fact, during those years that I was really involved, whenever I would eat, I would take a piece of food and go all the way out to the garden and put a piece of food in there, and giving something back to nature, giving something back in what I'm taking. I had like a very, very intimate involvement with nature. Like I say, it was very, very intense for some years, and it was really beautiful. I mean, I don't have that right now. I could, but I've decided a different lifestyle path, and I have a different view of nature. But explain nature's and mankind's relationship. See, I was kind of talking about that. So this is a more general thing. Like, what do you think nature and mankind are supposed to do? Some people say that we're the curse of this planet, and nature actually wants to get rid of us because we contraband it so much. We destroy nature more than we enhance it. We could enhance nature. We can build beautiful things. Even just a concrete building doesn't have to be a big box. It can actually have gardens in the middle, and it can incorporate some nature to it. It can involve the normal feng shui. It can look for the way the energies are flowing down the valley and have the entrance, accordingly. The windows so that you get more light and the sunlight and the sunset. I mean, you can make things to incorporate. That's what this book's going to kind of get into. We're going to get into our involvement with nature. How can you be better in tune with nature? Okay, so everything we're talking about. Me personally right now, how can I be better in tune? I'm changing my situation right now where I'm pumping out these videos. In fact, I was trying to not do a video today because I really wanted to get in and get ready for my Shaolin Kung Fu Beginner.com release in 2 days. A few days, and I haven't finished the quizzes, and so I was kind of like, skip today because it takes me 2 hours to do the class, and another hour to unload it off my phone and back it up and everything. So three hours, minimum. I've lost. I did a class today. So anyway. But that's my nature. I'm trying to put the class in. So my new rhythm, instead of having to force myself, I had a rhythm before where I had classes and they were scheduled, I would have to be at I had my seniors class on Fridays, and then after that I would have a second senior class. And then after that I would have, I think that was it on Friday. I just had 2 senior classes. Yeah, I think that was it. I had 2 senior classes. No, actually, what it was actually I had like 3. It started off at an early morning workout, but that was just too hard for me in getting the kids to school, so I had to nix that. But a lot of people going to work, I was giving them a kung fu workout. That was really fun, just doing tantuis. And then I had 2 seniors classes, and I ended up only doing 1. It's like I said, having kids, just try to shave things down sometimes. But yeah, I did have 3 hours that I was teaching on that Friday. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, I was teaching at the parks and recreation. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would teach at the YMCA in the afternoons and evenings. So I would have 1 or 2 hours if I had kids classes in the afternoon, but 1 kids class and then a regular adult class. Then I go home, cook dinner and everything, and come back for a 7 o'clock Tai Chi class, which would go till 8:30. I managed to make that a 90-minute class because nobody was going to start a class, at 8 o'clock usually at night. So I went from 7 to 8:30, and then we'd stay longer, and I'd do Shaolin Kung Fu. In fact, we did have, I knew in Salt Lake City, but anyway, sometimes I would have that second class. I'd be able to have another class. But okay. So I'm trying to make my new nature. What's my new rhythm? What's my new path through life? In other words, how many days a week am I doing these Kung Fu classes? I haven't quite ironed it out. I don't know. I've scheduled it. I've tried to schedule it, but because I don't have to schedule it, I shift my priorities sometimes, and that's not maybe good. I mean, it's kind of nice, but it's kind of bad. So I'm trying to still figure that out, my own nature, my new rhythm, my new exercise schedule, how to fit that in each week, okay? That's how I'm going to be better in tune with nature. That class is really important to me. And then I got all my other things I'm doing too, which is my own nature, but that's something else. How can mankind be better in tune with nature? Mankind. So now, really seriously, there's the Flint, Michigan thing and stuff like that. That just goes to show how if we can make some money and kill some people, that's normal business in America. I mean, we've had the longest running war. I mean, this huge running war. Only reason we're doing it is because people are making money. If no one was making money on this war, we wouldn't be there. That's it. So, in terms of mankind being better in tune with nature, we've got to realize that making money isn't more important than nature. And we are part of nature. See, and once you disavow nature, you disavow yourself from the people in nature. So if you can kill a fish, you can kill a lake, you can kill a whatever it is. I said a fish. I go fishing myself. But if you're willing to actually kill what you're not eating, just killing and murdering, that's different when you're hunting. But just murder a bunch of animals, then you can murder a bunch of people. I cannot murder an animal. Bugs are tough. I go through periods where I can get to, all right, it doesn't bother me, certain bugs, but no, even bugs is hard to kill. So, okay. And then down here at the bottom it says Shifu suggestions. So my students are supposed to fill this out, and then they come and we talk about it, and then I give them suggestions. Now, there's a note here, and we'll wrap it up. 15 minutes. See, I don't know how long these pages are going to take. I really don't. Okay, note. If you do not have a Shifu, which means master father or Tai Chi teacher. Shifu is supposed to be a master father, somebody who's interested in helping your life get better, not just a yoga teacher. I've never seen a yoga teacher be a Shifu. I've seen them with their students for 5, 6, 7 years, and they never even improved. They're same. Never gave them anything new. Just do the same thing 7 years. Wow. Sorry. So yeah, they graduated during the first month, and then they were just hanging out doing the same thing for 7 years. Sorry. Okay. Remember, that's what a yoga master, a yogi is someone who teaches yoga. Yoga means path to God, and a yogi means somebody who's leading you on a path to God. And so to see all these fake yogis, passing out their fake yoga, I've seen so much of it. I'm hardened, but I'm talking about thousands of people I've seen getting ripped off and gypped because somebody's just putting them in awkward positions for money. All right, here we go. Let me read this sentence. Got carried away there. Note, if you do not have a Shifu, master father, Tai Chi Kung Fu master, in your life, have your mentor, hopefully you got somebody you can look up to for good advice. Remember, their advice might not be wrong. You got to realize they only know what they know. Or your father, hopefully that guy's got good advice, but there's a lot of dumb people in the world, and if you've got one of those people as your father, then you might not get good advice. Sorry. But if you do, don't kill all the fathers. There's a lot of good fathers out there. Just because your mother doesn't like him doesn't mean he's a bad guy. So you need to make sure that maybe your mother's not the bad person, or misleading you. Make sure anyway, get to know your dad, okay? If you don't like him, fine. My dad's got incredible limitations. Like I said, I haven't been able to learn anything from him since I was in the 3rd grade, but he was my father, and he was a bit of a role model. In fact, I exaggerated him as a spiritual person, and I always looked up to him because I thought he was going to church all the time. And a few years ago, I went down and stayed with him for a year, and I was shocked. It was like he was doing certain things for routines or to pick up on the girls in the choir, but he actually wasn't as religious as I thought. So I've had a much more pristine image of my father than perhaps he deserved. But it's good to have a good image of your father. I would say I was better off with not knowing the truth maybe all these years. He was up there a little higher than when I finally got to know him better in the last years. Okay, so where were we? I think we were done. Oh, or an elder brother. If you've got an older brother, remember I'm teaching Confucian logic. An older brother is always supposed to help the younger brother, younger sister. In America, we don't believe in that type of stuff. We don't have that kind of support and family structure that's beneficial. We're just a whole bunch of barbarians. It's amazing. God, the way we raise kids is just amazing. I was a Mr. Mom, full-time Mr. Mom. I was on the PTA and the community council and assistant instructor and everything, and then I homeschooled for a few years. So believe me, I'm an expert to some extent, much more of an expert than I ever thought I'd be, because I shouldn't have had children and I shouldn't have even raised children because I'm an artist, and I came to realize that I wanted to raise artists and my kids didn't want to be artists, and saying, well, I'm glad I took you through an art program. But anyway, yeah, I'm an artist. So anyway, if you got somebody you can look up to, but your older brother is supposed to always be able to look up to and guide you, and just like your father, he's your pseudo father. Your father is supposed to be there for your good advice. Okay, he's off working, so your older brother's there. He represents your father. Okay, so you talk to him, and then he can talk to you. He represents your father. He'll protect you and guide you. Okay, so that's the basic structure in a family, and if you can't find that, then like I said, that's why I'm doing this book for Oscars. because he was my best friend the last 5 years. And he was not a master father. He didn't actually have the wisdom I was looking for. But what he did have was the appreciation and the interest to learn. And with that, I was able, through teaching him, I was able to learn stuff from him as I taught him. And so that was really, as a Taoist, that was really, and a Buddhist, that was very beneficial. He made me smarter. Not because of what he was able to do, but mostly because of what he wasn't able to do. And by working with his inabilities, but helping him. I was improving him, but they were so strong, so many of his inabilities, that I learned a lot about really how to help people who have lesser disabilities and inabilities. But you working with his really demanding inabilities and disabilities was very enlightening. And I was glad to help him and benefit his life there for the last half year. I made his life better, and he made my life better. Okay, sorry. Let's wrap it up.